Hey guys, Mike Lawson here, and I have a special guest today, Roland Manny. And today we're going to be talking about a bunch of different things. I just connected with Roland. I've been watching his videos for a while now. Just love his content, love his engagement, and especially the last video that he did just really spoke to me. And I was like, man, I got to interview this guy. You guys got to hear his message. I love just his positivity. Just right before we went live, we just had a really great conversation, and just want to share, Roland, with all you guys. And he's just going to be talking about, not only his entrepreneurial journey, but just some mindset things and what you really need, what it takes to really be successful. And it's really all of it. It's not about your company or your products or your service or your industry. It all begins with your mind. And I'm sure you'd agree with that, Roland. So I just want to go ahead and introduce, for those of you that don't know Roland, this is Roland Manny. I'll let him share his background with you. But if you do know Roland, or if you don't know Roland, just share some love. And by the way, help the algorithms out. I know we're also streaming on YouTube as well. Hit the subscribe button. Again, we're still playing around with YouTube, just kind of getting ready to warm up the algorithms. But show the algorithms that you like to hear this positivity, this mindset, all this mindset stuff, positivity, because in a world full of negativity, we want to be shining a light for those that need to hear it. So, Roland, I'll just turn it over to you. Take it away. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and we'll get into some of the stuff that we're going to share.
Cool. Well, thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me on, and just right back at you, because I like watching your stuff too. I think what you're doing is so important. People need the positive stuff that you deliver. People need to hear the good stuff, because we hear so much of the negative stuff that we got to just keep giving positivity, because we can change people's lives. But real quickly, Mike, I before I got involved I'm in network marketing. Before I got involved in the industry, I worked in the prison, and I hated it, driving to work every single day. And I used to often think to myself, I'm driving myself to prison. I'm on the installment plan when the guys that are in there are trying to get out. So, and I think a lot of people do that, Mike. They drive themselves to a job that they hate. And just because it doesn't have the bars on the windows, it doesn't mean it's a prison. If it stops you from doing what you want to do in your life, it's a prison for you. So I remember driving every day, back and forth to work. And to back up real quick, I didn't even want the job. I took it as a stepping stone to get into the state police. I wanted to be a Massachusetts state trooper. My dream since I was 10 years old was I was going to be a Massachusetts state trooper. And so I took the job. I took the job as a 6-month position, because they were supposed to be hiring. And then 6 months turned into a year, into 2 years. And then somebody lied about me with 2 weeks to go. And it ended up costing me the job on the state police, or the opportunity. And I got stuck working in the prison. So what turned into it was supposed to be a 6-month, what I call sentence, turned into a life sentence. And I think that happens for a lot of people. I see a lot of people, they take a job, it's part-time or it's temporary until they get to this. And then they suck them in with the check at the end of the week. They suck them into unfulfilled promises, and they end up staying there the whole life. And that's how I felt. That's what got me there. And
so let's jump right into that. We talked about the power of part-time, right? So you're in a career that you weren't happy with. Then you were introduced to network marketing. You jumped in. You didn't go full-time. Why did you go full-time? And how did you work your business part-time? And how did you do it? Because obviously, being in the industry for 26 years, you're obviously successful. You've done something right when, and again, this is in any industry, right? I don't care what industry it is. There's probably more people that fail than succeed. But what did you do right? And how did you work it? And would you give any tips for people that are just getting started, whether it's network marketing or just in business in general? And they're trying to do it part-time. Maybe they're trying to build a coaching business on the side. Maybe they're trying to get into, a different industry, and they're trying to transition out. Do you have any tips for anyone new?
That's a great question. Yeah, it's just make the commitment to do something every single day, and stop using the excuses that stop you from doing it. So when I got involved with it, I was full-time. I was married. I had a daughter. Actually, it was before I had my daughter. And so I was working full-time at the prison. We had to work the overtimes and all that stuff. And when my mom and my dad introduced me to the opportunity, because they were looking for something else, I had never heard of anything like that. But I got excited about it. It gave me hope. It gave me something. And so I figured if I can do this part-time, Jim Rohn said, work part-time, full-time on your job, part-time on your fortune. So I think the key thing is if you're starting something part-time, whether it's network marketing, a job or whatever, you have to change your thinking. Get involved with personal development, because that's the only thing that's going to keep you going when other things, when people are telling you you'll never make it. And then I just made the decision. I would work 7 to 3 or 3 to 11, and I'd work it around that. I'd work it when I was in my car. Any chance I could, I would work it. So I never used an excuse of I didn't have time, because listen, if somebody used to tell me, well, I got to wait until I get more time. I've never seen 25 hours on a clock, and I've never seen 8 days on a calendar. Like some people say, well, I'm going to get started someday. Someday never comes. There's 7 days, and some days not one of them. So I just stayed focused on, like, I had a plan of what I wanted to do. I had a goal of what I want to do with my life, and it just gave me hope, and that's what kept me going part-time.
And let me ask you this, talking about personal development and coming from, the industry of, law enforcement and corrections, I'm sure that there wasn't too much positivity, and how did you, when you joined your network marketing business, was that the first time that you learned about personal development? And, what are your thoughts on personal development just in general, especially for new entrepreneurs?
Yeah, the reason why I'm laughing, Mike, is that's such a great question, because, if you have a job outside the prison, you can really hang around with some positive people. You have your choice a little bit, like maybe not in the work environment, but once you get out. But when you're in the prison, listen, you don't want to be there. The inmates don't want to be there, and the other staff don't want to be there. So there's not one thing positive about it. And I had never even heard about network personal development. So when my buddy and my mom and dad told me, hey, you got to get started with personal development, I said to them, listen, I've been going to the gym my whole life. I'm personally developed. Like I thought that was personal development. And they said, no, you got to work on your mind. That's one thing. And I hated reading books in high school. I barely made it. I wasn't the best student, but the first live person I got to see was Jim Rohn. That was the first one. And I'll never forget sitting in an audience. There's about 3,200 people. I had to go to California, and I felt like he was talking to me. And that, like, even now it still hits me, because that changed my life when he said, for things to change, you have to change. For things to get better, you have to get better. And when you change, everything will change around you. Don't wait for everybody else to change, because your life will never change. Right. And from that day on, I've been a study of personal development. Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, Les Brown, who's now a personal friend of mine. And that can change people's lives. If we,
love Les Brown.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine. So awesome. Just by getting people to think differently, their whole life can change, Mike. So I don't care if anybody that's listening to this, if you never get started in a business, you never get started in a part-time company or whatever it is, start working on your personal development, because it'll change not just your life, but everybody's life around you.
Okay, so what about, mindset is obviously a part of personal development. Mm-hmm. So for people that are like, well, I believe most people aren't even going to watch this unless they're some type of entrepreneur, right? But when it comes to mindset, why? So let's talk about someone that has no aspirations to become an entrepreneur or get into business. Should they still work on personal development? Should they still work on mindset, and why?
Okay, that's such a great question. Yeah, because you don't have to be in a business. I worked, like I said, I studied this since 1995, and I ended up getting divorced when my daughter was 3 years old, and I was still building my business and stuff. So I always stayed focused on this. And this is probably I didn't even know you were going to ask this question, and it's perfect, because there's going to be times in life when you're going to get knocked down, and you're never going to see it coming. Mike Tyson said, it's the punch you don't see coming that knocks you out. It's not the hardest one. It's the one you don't see coming. And we hear people say a lot of times, Mike, I never saw that coming. I never saw this illness coming. I never saw this. Well, when my daughter was 15 years old, she told me she was pregnant. That knocked me down. I remember being at the Patriots game. I was watching them play the Miami Dolphins, and my 15-year-old daughter, Tori, told me she was, and it wasn't anything that I did wrong. She came from a good Christian family, good morals. It's just something that happened. Right. And she came to see me 3 days before she went and talked to her mother. And I never understood that. I never got mad at her. I just said, let's figure it out. We'll figure it out. And I said, it's not going to be easy, because at that time I was 45. I said, I've never been a 45-year-old single dad with a pregnant 15-year-old. Wow. So that's part of my message when I go talk to people, whether
Yeah.
life's going to knock you down. It doesn't matter. So people would ask me this question all the time, Mike. They'd say, why did she come to you? You worked in a prison. They go, you're not the friendliest looking guy. You got kind of this mean look. I'm like, well, I don't know if that matters, but
I never thought that, by the way. I
that's
think
good. I appreciate that. And they said, why did she always come to you? Why did she come to you 3 days before she came to her mother?
Yeah.
And I just blew it off. And then one day I asked her, and she said, I knew what you were going to say. I said, how'd you know what I was going to say? I knew what you listened to. And then she wrote this big post on Facebook, and she talked about, you know, you had to ask the question. And she said, you know, she talked about me, and she said, I remember the stack of books being on the back of the toilet. I remember being in the car and listening to all the personal development. So she knew exactly what I was going to say, and you listened to it, not because it's going to affect you right now. Yeah, it will, but you can't pour from an empty cup. So if you don't have personal development in you, if you don't have a change of mindset in you, when the crap hits the fan, when the punch comes that you don't see coming, if you don't have it in you, you don't know how to respond to it. So I just had it buried in me. And then when I had it buried in me, when the time came for it to come out, it came out automatically. And because of that, because of personal development, because of working on myself, the way I responded changed the game. And now, because of me and because of my daughter and the choices that we made, she has a soon to be 12-year-old daughter, and I have a great 12-year-old granddaughter. So it doesn't matter if you're in a business or not in a business, you work on yourself. So when the stuff hits the fan, you not only get knocked down, you know how to get back up, because Muhammad Ali said the canvas is no place for a champion. And I don't think anybody that's a champion wants to stay down. So personal development gets you back up when you can't.
Wow. That is powerful. That really is. So do you believe that you would have handled that situation the same if you weren't involved in personal development?
Probably not. I was the most negative guy. You know, I got refused from the state police. I was divorced, you know, which had nothing to do with me. I had all these things. So that was so built up in me, and working in the prison at a job. When I say I hated the job, I hated the job. You know, like they say, the only difference between a grave, you know, people say I'm stuck in a rut. The only difference between a rut and a grave, the ends are kicked out, or how deep it is and how long you stay there. And that's where I felt I was. And when personal development came, it gave me hope. It got me to think like, man, you can change your life by changing how you think. You know what I mean? And why would somebody want to change their life just by changing what they already have, a mind? So no, I wouldn't have been the same. I was a very negative person. You wouldn't be talking to me today.
So
I didn't trust anybody.
So what do you have to say to the people that are out there that say, you know what, that personal development stuff, man, that stuff doesn't work. That's a bunch of hokey, you know what I mean? So when I started getting, you know, because I didn't grow up in a positive environment, and, you know, my circumstances around me wasn't, you know, the best. People weren't lifting me up. They weren't positive. So when I was introduced, same thing, just like you, network marketing, personal, I loved it. Like I was all in. So what would you? And then there are people like, oh, that stuff doesn't work. What would you say to those people?
I would say, first of all, they got to open up their thinking. Second of all, I think they're gypping themselves, because they weren't made to live a life of conformity and just getting by. Most people, Les Brown says, die at 25 and they bury them at 65. Why? Because of the same, what you just mentioned, is they're not open to listening to other things. And if they'd rather live in known hells than unknown heavens, let them stay there. My job isn't to convince anybody. It's getting the blind to see. And if people want to stay blind, Mike, you can give them the glasses, you can give them the doctors, you can give them all that stuff. But if they want to stay blind, there's nothing we can do. So all I want to do is work with the willing, work with the people that want to change. And if you want to stay miserable, if you want to stay conformed to a life, you know, of other people's opinion of you without even expanding your mind, do it. But like they say, once you do it once, it's like an elastic. Once you stretch it, it can never go back to the way it is. Once you get involved in personal development, it'll never get back. And it's easier now than ever before.
And I know I'm putting you on the spot now, but what do you think stops most people? You know, because most people say that they want this, right? They want to be happy. They want to be in a loving relationship. They want to love themselves. They want to love their daughter. They want to be able to handle situations the right way. They want to make a lot of money. They want to be successful. They want to give back. What do you think? What do you see that stops people? Is there like one or two things that you just see that people it just stops them?
Yeah, I think, like I shared with you earlier, I think like they say, the biggest prison people live in is the fear, is other people's opinion of them. So I think what stops them is what other people are going to think, what other people are going to say. If they fail, what are people going to say? And I think that's one of the biggest ones is their fear of failure, of they failed in the past. But like they say, failure is it's an event, not a person. But they get so focused on that, Mike, that they gotta, even though they want to do it, they just got to believe that they can do it and not worry about what other people think, because what other people think of you, it doesn't even matter. Who cares? And most people don't even care about you anyway. So it doesn't matter what they think about you. You know, I shared this with Mike earlier. My biggest thing is this. The only one I have to worry about that cares about me and worries about how I look is God. And he made me like he is. So it doesn't matter what other people think. Les Brown said, other people's opinion of you is none of your business. If you want to change your life, if you want to change what you want to do, you got to stop thinking selfish and thinking about yourself and start giving to other people and not be afraid to expose yourself. And once you do that, you'll attract the right people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is good. So maybe if you could talk a little bit about what we were talking about earlier. So just share with everyone, you know, when you talked about, you know, people not sharing their gifts, right? Because we're all born with gifts.
Yeah.
I know we talked about a bunch of stuff, but specifically, you know, the blind person and the deaf person.
Oh, yeah. So, you know, what stops a lot of people, even from, let's not even say in Facebook Lives or getting on video lives, what stops a lot of people, even from talking to people in real life, person to person, is they don't like the way they go, well, I don't like the way I look. Well, I'm not going to do a live today because I don't like the way I look. Well, guess what? If you wake up tomorrow, you're going to look at the same way as today. So why prolong it? You might as well do it. You're not going to look any better tomorrow. You're going to still look the same. If you don't like the way you sound, it doesn't matter. You know, and I was sharing with Mike earlier, if you don't like the way you look, ask a person that's blind if they'd like to look at your face and see how beautiful you are just one time. If you don't like the way you sound, why don't you ask a deaf person that can never hear someone's voice if they'd like to hear your voice just once? If you don't like the way that your voice is, ask somebody that never had a voice. When I mean don't have a voice, I don't mean that aren't willing to share it, that's never been able to speak their whole entire life. If they'd like to have your voice just once. If you don't like the way you look physically, ask somebody that doesn't have your physical abilities to do things, that are stuck in a wheelchair, or maybe you have some deformities. If they'd like to look like you just one time, stop thinking about what you want to look like and start thinking about what you can give to other people, because other people need to hear your voice. Listen, your voice wasn't given to you for you. If it was given to you for you, you could just talk to yourself. It wasn't given to you for you. It was given to you to share with other people. Why were your setbacks and your struggles given to you? So your setback can be somebody else's breakthrough. Don't keep it to yourself. Give it to somebody else. That's why it was given to you. God needs you to provide a service or a story to help somebody change their life. And the only reason why he gave it to you was so you could overcome it and share it with somebody else. So stop keeping your gifts to yourself.
Wow. That's awesome. So stop being selfish with your gifts.
Yeah, I'm having trouble sitting down, Mike, because you got me going now.
I kind of had a feeling that's how this was going to go. No, this is really, really good stuff. And if you guys are watching this live, you have any questions, just drop them in the comment section. Let us know you're watching live, or if you're watching on a replay, let us know you're watching on a replay. But this is really, really good. I mean, I love it. I know we could probably talk all day. So I do want to switch gears for a second and talk about, I know you're doing a lot of live videos. How have live videos changed your business? And I know you talked a little bit about, again, I love that. Your voice isn't for you. It's for you to share your gift with everyone else, right? And the things that you've gone through. So again, I know you're doing a lot of live videos. I've been seeing you pop up, and it's not only just doing them, it's great content. So if you're not following Roland, make sure you follow him. But how have live videos changed your business?
Well, it's changed my business because it's gotten more people to see who I am. You know, and I loved what you shared with me earlier was you didn't even know what company I was with. And that, to me, that was perfect because
you're doing it right. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's not my goal. My goal is to affect people with my message, with a story. I don't care if they never get involved with my business, Mike, but I want to attract people. This is a story I got to share with you guys because I think it'll wrap up what Mike is talking about. Why I do it more is because, you know, I was reading the book. I can't remember what it was. I was on a plane going to Chicago. I can't remember the name of the book. But one thing you guys got to do is you got to read more. Spend 15, 20 minutes a day committed to reading or listening to something that could change your life. So anyway, I was reading this book. And it said, let's say the person that's sitting in front of you or behind you or on the side of you, let's say that's not their seat or that's not their position in line. That's your assignment. You were assigned those people. And if you don't speak to them, if you don't give your message to them, you're gypping them and their lives will never be the same. because you're the only one that can change it. So by doing my lives and finding content that are stories, I'm a collector of stories, finding stories that I can use that maybe will make people think differently than if I can just do it for the one mic. Whenever I do a live, see, we focus on how many people are watching, how many people are commenting, how many people are liking it. I don't care. All I care about is this. When I get a direct message and it says, you know something, Roland, your message last night about the tiger in the cage changed my life.
That's awesome.
So that's how it's changing my business, because it's just giving me more people to see who I really am. And I feel like I'm not going to take my gift to the graveyard. I'm going to use it as best as I can. So that's how it's helping me build my business, is getting more people to see who I am. And then if they're interested in what I do, then I'll show them what I do. But first I have to show them who I am.
Right. And you also talked about how you had, so let me ask you this, how did you get into doing live videos? Right? Because live videos weren't around even in the industry for 26 years, right? So social media wasn't around really like it is now 10 years ago. So, and then live videos probably within the last 7, 8 years. So how did you get into doing live videos, and was it easy? Because you seem like a natural.
Oh, no, it was probably the hardest things I had to do. I mean, you could ask my wife. I used to want to do a live and I'd have to have everything perfect and I'd be sweating and it would take me 3 or 4 days to do it because I was more focused. The focus was inside. But what are people going to think? I have to be right. I can't stumble on my words. And what really changed it for me, Mike, was about 4 years ago. You know, I'm a Catholic. I believe in God more than anything. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have made it through so many things that I've made it through. That's just my opinion. But I go to church every Sunday. And one Sunday we're in church. I got to sit in the front because if I sit in the back, I get distracted. So like they say, if you want the best seats in church, show up late because the front seats are always empty. So we're sitting in the front. And the priest talked about, it was right before Easter, they were going to have a retreat. There was a priest coming from Erie, Pennsylvania, and he was going to do a 7 to 9, a 7 to 9:30, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I said, listen, always be open to learning new things. That's another thing I'm going to share with you. Never keep your ears closed. Always be willing to learn different things. And then you take what you want from each thing that you learn and you apply it. Well, so I told Julie, I said, hey, we'll come check this out. We'll get here about 6:15, 6:30. We'll watch it. And then they played a clip of what he was going to talk about. So I said to Julie, we're definitely going to come. Then the priest talked about how many people were going to be coming and you aren't going to have a seat. So I said, we better get here early so we can sit in the front. So after the first day, Mike, I was like, I got to come. We're going to be here at 5. We got there between 5 and 5:15. And then we got there before everybody. We I could have lit the candles for Pete's sake, right? So, so we're sitting there and he was just so powerful, like day in and day out. For those hours, I was captivated. But one day he told a story, and I'll share it with you guys, and maybe it'll change your life like it's changed mine because I've been sharing it for over 4 years now. He said, you know, I went into the priesthood right after high school. Most guys take a few years, decide they want to go, and then they come back and they go. And he said, you know, we couldn't work. The only way we could get money is donations from the church and from family members. Right. And he said every time he'd go home, his grandmother, we've all had grandmothers, and he said that she'd always say, hey, Larry, his name's Father Larry Richards. Hey, Larry, I want to give you this money. And he'd say, Grandma, I can't take the money. He said, I want to take it, but my father would get mad. And he said, every time he'd come home, Mike, she'd say, Larry, take the money. And he always said, no. And he said, then one time he came home, they had finished eating, and she pulled him over to the side. And she said, Larry, take the money. And Grandma, I can't take the money. And she said, Larry, if you don't take this money from me right now, I'm going to be so mad at you. And she started to cry. So he said, you know, I took the money. And he said, how many people would want to make their grandmother cry if you would take the money? And everybody agreed. He said, so my question is this to you. If God gave you a gift, a talent, or ability, something inside you that only you have, nobody else has it. He gave you a voice that nobody else has. He gave you a body that nobody else has. He gave you the gifts inside you that you're the only one that can share it with other people. He said, but you're telling him you're not good enough, smart enough, you don't have the talent, skills, or abilities, or you don't like the way you look. If you're not willing to make your grandmother cry over a few dollars, why are you willing to make God cry and tell him your gifts aren't good enough and he's the one that gave them to you? And it gave me chills just like it gave me right now. And I said, I got to stop being selfish and I got to start doing this. And from that day on, I became more consistent doing lives because I decided it's not about what people care about me. It's what God cares. And I got to do my job.
Wow. That's so good. And that's the second time we
I get excited. I love this stuff. Like people's lives, people need to realize like they're not living as big as they're supposed to be. People live in small lives, Mike.
So what's your advice to get people to start living bigger lives?
They're
Right.
just-
So you're getting the person that's watching, they watch all your videos, they watch all mine, they watch all whoever they like, they're watching them all day long, they get pumped up, they get excited. They're like the feeling that you have and I have right now listening to it, like this, jazzes us up, right? And then there are people that are just, and then they just, once this is over, it's over. And then they don't do anything about it. So how can you get those people? Can you get those people to do something, to make some kind of impact? And it might not even be to recruit someone else or get another customer, just to have them have a better day, be nicer to their kids, treat the dog a little better. You know what I mean? Do you have any tips to like say, start here, start doing this?
You know something, Mike? It'll go back to right what I said before. Happiness is an inside job. Like you can't rely on other people to make you happy. You're the only one that can make yourself happy. Sure, we've all had situations in our lives. We've had deaths in the family. We've had, maybe drug addiction. Who cares? That's a story that we all have, but it doesn't stop us from, we got to stop blaming what's on the outside and start looking on what's in the inside. And once you realize that happiness is an inside job, and the biggest thing is, Mike, you did it and so did I. I made the decision to start working on myself. I made the choice. Life is a choice. I had the choice to pick up the book and listen to Jim Rohn or listen to the video or travel to California. It's a choice that I made. So you have to decide. I can't do it. Mike can't do it. No matter how much we say, it'll never do it. The only thing that'll ever change is you. And when you change, everything will start to change. So we got to stop blaming other people. And I'll say this, the coronavirus has caused a lot of people to give up on life. The corona, and I'm not going to get into all this stuff because it is a bad thing. People get real sick, and I'm not going to downplay it. But a lot of my buddy, Dr. Ruben West said, never let a good crisis go to waste. And what do I mean by that is some people took the coronavirus and they use it as an excuse not to do anything. Other people took it as an opportunity to do something different. And maybe, just maybe, the coronavirus came around to get you to settle down a little bit, to open your eyes, to get the blind to see. Because most people go through life as a turtle. See, a turtle has sight, a giraffe has vision. So most people are looking at the coronavirus, the sight of a turtle and not the vision of a giraffe. Like, what could I get out of this? What could I change in my life? And until you do that, Mike, until you decide, I'm going to change my life no matter what. I don't care what people say. I don't care what. And listen, if the friends around you, I'm going to give you this tip. If the friends around you aren't helping you become bigger, if your circle of friends aren't helping you grow, they're not your circle. They're your cage. Because they're not helping you expand, they're keeping you trapped. Why? Because most people want to see you get ahead in life as long as you don't get ahead of them. So that's why people don't want you to succeed. And that's why most people won't do it on their own, Mike, because they're afraid of what their friends are going to think about them and their family members. And listen, when your circle of friends becomes smaller, your life becomes bigger. When your circle of friends become less, your life becomes more. Don't worry about how many friends you have on Facebook or in real life. That doesn't matter. Don't look at quality, look at quantity, and start working on yourself, because happiness is an inside job.
Yeah, great points. And I talked about this last year when the coronavirus first hit and everyone was freaking out, rightly so. But there were people, and I said this, there are people that are going to take advantage of an opportunity, and they're going to use this as not to take advantage of people, but take advantage of an opportunity to, not just sit back and wait for a check to come in, but there's going to be a lot of people that are new industry, new careers that are born out of that crisis.
Yep.
And I can't tell you how many people that I've talked to that have had the best years financially ever last year. And one of the worst economic times that supposedly we were supposed to see. And it was for some people, I'm not downplaying that, but there are many people that I've talked to that have had the best years ever in a pandemic. And why is that? Because, they didn't just sit back and say, well, I'll wait for this to pass, but I totally agree with you. So, maybe in closing, I know, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, and I don't want to take too much more of your time. I know you're a busy man, but if you could talk about, if you have time, if you could talk about the tiger story that you talked about in your last video, if you just want to share with everyone here.
Oh yeah, I'll do that.
I love that. I think that's.
I was reading a story because I'm a collector of stories, because stories change people's lives, right?
Yeah.
Let me tell you this story. So I was reading a story about this white tiger that was given to the President Eisenhower. as a gift, and he couldn't give it back because that would have been an insult. So it was given to him and the people of the United States. But they had to find a place to put this white tiger. So they put it in a cage in Washington, a 12 by 12 cage. And the reason why they put it there was because they got acres and acres of land, and they were going to create those acres and develop it into the natural habitat of the tiger, so he could live in an environment like he would have lived in before he was brought to the United States. So they spent years doing this, building it. And then the day came when they were going to let the tiger out so he could be free, so he could live in the environment that he was supposed to live in. So they were all there. They're excited for this great event. Now, keep in mind, he's been in this cage for 8, I think it was 8 years, a 12 by 12. And for some of us, that's where we find ourselves. And when I talk about a cage, we might be in a job we don't like. We might be in a relationship we don't like. We might have just taken this job as a temporary thing. And now we felt like we've been stuck there forever and there's no hope. And that's like the tiger in the cage for 8 years. We're taken out of something that we were supposed to be doing, just like me working at the prison when that wasn't my calling, and put into a cage. So after 8 years, I think it was 8, they take the cage away so the tiger could roam free. And they were all excited to see this. And you know what he did? He walked the same 12 feet that he walked every single day for every day of his life that he was in that cage. So he had all that available to him. He had the whole world of his type of world available to him. And he was so conformed to the 12 by 12 that he never got out of the cage. And all he had to do was take it 12 feet and 1 inch. It would give him a whole new life. And for us, see, that could be personal development for you guys. You could be stuck in a 12 by 12. If you just open a book or listen to a video, that could be the half inch after the 12 and a half inches that once you step out of it, your eyes are open. See, Helen Keller said the only thing worse than being blind is having sight but no vision. A lot of you have sight, but we don't have vision because you're stuck in the 12 by 12. So like the tiger in the white cage, if you have the courage to just step out of it, that's where everything starts, is outside of your comfort zone. But most people are afraid to stay there, Mike. So if I could leave you with one thing, is don't be like the tiger stuck in the 12 by 12. If somebody offers you an opportunity or a chance to change, even if you don't see the outcome, faith is being able to see, being able to see what isn't there. And the result of that faith is believing what you do not see. And the result of that faith is seeing what you believe. Most people, Mike, they want to see it and then they'll believe it. That's not this kind of party. You got to have the faith and believe it. And once you believe it long enough, you'll see it. So don't be afraid to step outside of the 12 by 12.
Yeah, figure it out, because that's where the freedom is. And
that's where the freedom is, Mike. Perfectly said.
Don't be afraid to be free, because that's what you want. And also be careful what you ask for or what you wish for, because you might just get it. Yeah. So just be prepared to get it. I know Jim Rohn talks about it as well. If you say you want to be a millionaire, if someone was to give you $1 million, you win the lottery, best you become a millionaire.
Yeah.
You're going to lose.
You'll only rise to the level, your income will meet to your level of your education and your personal development.
And that goes back to everything that we talked about, personal development, everything. Yeah. So, all right. Well, I appreciate your time more than anything. For those of you that you're still on again, or you you watch this entire thing, you're catching on the end replay, show Roland some love. Definitely go follow him and let me know your thoughts. If you have any questions in regards to anything that was shared today, Roland, we can talk all day long.
Yeah, we can.
You'll be one of my first guests on my podcast.
Cool.
Would love to have you on. I mean, this is something we could talk for a long time about. Love your energy. Love what you're doing. Love the impact that you're making. Is there any final words you want to share with everyone?
No, something you have a gift, talent, or ability that you can use. Don't keep it to yourself. Don't take it to the grave. I told Mike earlier, the only mark most people leave on this earth is the tombstone under which they're buried. And if you don't know what your gift is, ask somebody, because they know what it is and they'll tell you what it is. So don't be afraid to share it, because you can't take it with you.
They're a true friend. They will. Absolutely. Yeah. So again, Roland, I appreciate your time more than anything. Thanks for tuning in. All right,
thanks for having me, Mike. I appreciate it, man.
Live and on the replay. And again, don't forget to go follow Roland and watch more and show him some love when you see his video. Show him some love and comments. And all right, guys, have a great day. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys soon.
Thanks, guys.